What was I saying? Um,
Something.
I think it was something about, just, I think they can make the necessary tweaks on this roster and find themselves in this exact same position next year where they can, I'm not saying they can make a postseason run, but I think, if they fix the offensive line, if they, find a couple of difference makers on defense, at least, it doesn't have to be, two solid edge rushers in a corner, but if you can just get a decent pass rush, um, I think this team can find themselves in the same predicament next year where they're, 8 or 9 wins this late in the season. They need a win or so to make the playoffs. And to me, I feel like that will be a better case to build on in this year because, like you were saying, and they're a 7-win team, but they don't have 7-win talent.
Right.
But I think it'd be more justifiable next year if they were in the same case and they made the necessary tweaks.
Yeah. No, I agree. They have a ways to go. They do. But I think that it's certainly possible that we see this team show like a lot of improvement going forward, and especially in future years because they have the ability to do it. Like they have the ability to get better players in here and to hit on these draft picks and to sort of clean up this cap mess that they found themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna take savvy moves. Like we've got a ways to go still. So I think it's important to talk about where they are. And I definitely want to do that. And I think we have some questions about it. I know we had a bunch of donations, so it's just going to give folks just a minute to reconnect because I don't want anyone to have their donation missed. So just give them 1 second. But in the meantime, thank you guys for sticking with us. Sorry about the issues. It's like right on the cusp of like enough speed to to like do the show, and I guess we're seeing the impact of that. So big apologies for that. But let's get real quick. I'm going to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for sticking around once again. If you haven't already checked out our Patreon page, the link to that is patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. You can support us on a monthly basis. If you haven't noticed, we're currently doing a fundraising drive where we are raising money for me to go to the Senior Bowl. So all donations this month are going to go towards the Senior Bowl. So if you want to pitch in for that, you can tip at the link in the show description. I believe it's just streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic. But check the show description for that link if the bot doesn't work right for you. And we'll read your questions. You'll help us out, help me out, get to the Senior Bowl. And I believe George has said he will match 100% of donations. I don't know if he's doing that every show. He said so. I'll give him the leeway on that to decide how much he wants to match. But every dollar going towards the Senior Bowl this month. So thanks a lot, guys, for that. All right, the first one we had. Ray Moon with the $5. I think he had it come in, before the show. He said, "Put some respect on your man, Matt," and he's absolutely right. Matt, we talked about the touchdown. Matt got robbed, but he deserves respect, and he played his heart out. He's the fact that Ryan's here getting obliterated every single week, being hit the most of any quarterback. I mean, he's a trooper. His durability is honestly one of his most underrated aspects. Like the fact that he's able to take that many hits and not just miss an eternity of games is something that I don't think is ever really going to be talked about, but he deserves that respect.
And he tried to make some things work out there today, man. There was a point in time where he didn't have Pitts or Cordero on the field. He's trying to find somebody. I mean, they're drawing up targets for Parker Hesse. What happened to Hayden?
He's on the COVID list, right? Or is he just hurt?
I think he had COVID.
Yeah.
He's on COVID list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. So that obviously took out another weapon. And then
it's been ravaging Atlanta sports. The Hawks have been running with a bunch of LA Fitness guys the last few games.
I heard about that. That's just a big rough to try to play through it. So the Falcons are already shorthanded at tight end. They lose Kyle Pitts for the second half. Parker Hesse comes in and
Hesse had some catches today,
he did. Like he was an admirable addition. So big props to Hesse for trying to pitch in there, but didn't quite get it done. All right, now we got. No, go ahead.
Hate to see Pitts get hurt, man. I think he was due.
Yeah,
he was.
He
I
was, yeah.
I do want to applaud the coaching staff for not forcing Kyle Pitts out there, because hamstring issues are always tricky, and especially in that cold weather. I'm really glad that they held him out because the last thing you want is to make that a lingering concern and a possible Julio Jones situation
Yeah.
where
Yep.
Julio played in week 2 through his hamstring injury a couple years ago, and he apparently still has never recovered from it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's tough.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be against holding him out next week too, just depending on how bad it is. And hamstrings tend to linger. It does suck because he's on his way to breaking Ditka's rookie tight end record. He broke Julio's all-time rookie receiving record today.
How far off is he?
I think right now it's about 50 something yards off.
Damn.
It's like less than 60 yards off from it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
about-
58 yards, I think. 58 yards.
I want to see him get that, and of course, I want to see him do it against the Saints.
Yeah.
The team that kind of chuckled by the Falcons drafting Pitts.
Yep. So
But
I mean, if he plays next week, if he's healthy enough to play, I think he'll get it. But
I get Adnan's point. If he's like 70%, I'm like, don't even.
Yeah, no.
Especially next week isn't meaningless. It's the Saints, but you're not really fighting for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't risk your all-world rookie tight end who is your main building block moving forward.
No,
Yeah.
you just you hope you hope he's healthy enough next week to try to go for the record, but if not, you don't force it because he's got plenty of time to break records.
I will say if he does go and if he does break the record, I do want them to give him the full treatment the way that the Saints used to with Breeze when he'd break a record against the Falcons. I mean, like stop
Absolutely.
the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do a little ceremony.
Yeah, force them into the sidelines. I want to see the entire team start doing the gritty at midfield. Like it's
Absolutely.
like I want to really I want Sean Payton to be pissed off.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that too.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, I got to start getting through these donations because thankfully lots of people are donating. Really appreciate that. But yeah, we're backing up here, so I got to start doing these, and I'm sure that will spark many conversation topics along the way. We got Jason Gaines with the $2. Thank you so much, Jason. Frequent commenter, donator, Jason Gaines here. He says, refs robbed Ryan of that rushing TV. I'm so sick of bad refs. Poyer should have been the one called for taunting. I think Smith should have considered kicking the field goal after Foyer's interception. And Antonio Clown is back, and he's out of Tampa Bay. Bucks ain't going to make it back to the Super Bowl.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's just wild, dude. Apparently, he did not take the plane back to Tampa Bay, so apparently he is done in Tampa.
Oh, yeah. Arians announced that he's done as a Buccaneer. He's done. Like he has to be done.
I just love that Arians was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna. There's no team discipline. No, it's fine." And then like 2 weeks later, he just like quits the team. It's like, yeah,
that's CTE, man.
That's what happens. That's what happens. I mean,
CTE.
it very well could be. So obviously, if it's CTE, we hope that Brown gets the help that he needs. But
he has. There's no way any team gives him.
Oh, no, he's done.
Yeah, plenty of teams have given him chances. Like
done.
He's
done. There's no way. And for this to happen, this point in the season is already a weird situation. But when you look at what is around him, like the Bucks are one of the best teams in the league. They're primed for another deep postseason run. And you walk out on them in week 17. Like you're walking away from a Super
and they won the game too. Like they still won the game.
You're walking away from a Super Bowl ring, man. Like this
so
it's not a situation where like they're like a winless team and you're like, fuck it. Like no, they're the Bucks with Tom Brady. Like they could damn sure win it all again, and you're just saying, all right, whatever, I'm out.
Yeah. It's just a weird situation. I don't get it at all.
Go out with a bang though. Like people are talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, not for the reasons he wants. We got Tom K with the $5. He says, okay, you're Fontenot on draft night. On the board for you are David Ajabo, center Tyler Linderbaum, offensive tackle Charles Cross, and defensive tackle Jordan Davis. Who do you pick? He knows there hasn't been time for the deepest of analysis just yet, but they just want to know our gut instinct. Yeah, you would go with Ajabo?
Yep.
Yeah, I think honestly that's probably where I'm leaning too. I know George will be very upset about passing on Jordan Davis, but Ojabo, like I was like on the fence about Ojabo as a top 10 pick until he outplayed Aiden Hutchinson
And I
against
also have
Georgia.
to take into account of how I expect these guys to test this
Yeah.
offseason. And I
Ojabo's
think
like really athletic. I mean, the only thing with Ojabo is he's sort of a 1-year wonder, but
he sort of is, but I think
his tape doesn't like look like a 1-year wonder. He's like legitimately beating guys with moves and stuff like that.
this year
Like,
he is. Yes. You take that, and when he gets in t-shirt and tights at the NFL Combine, he's going to look impressive in my opinion.
He's going to blow it up. Yeah.
And he's going to climb the ranks. So I'll take Ojabo. I'm sure, Adnan, I'm pretty sure you probably want Jordan Davis, right?
I said it a few weeks ago. I'm not as on the Davis hype train.
Just like Davis top 10. Like if we're picking at like 15, I think Davis is like a much better pick.
Just because that game against Alabama, like I didn't take, like I said, I'm not taking him completely off my board because of that game, but it was a bad look. I did knock him down like a couple spots because of that game because he looked tired and just bad in that game.
That's what you saw in the Alabama game is what you can kind of sort of expect when he's a non-factor in games. And when he's a non-factor in games, like it's a considerable loss.
Yeah.
Because he's not able to even be on the field to contribute because of his size.
And NFL O-lines will be a lot more similar to Alabama than against any other team Georgia's faced this season. I'm not that Davis isn't like bad or that, like we shouldn't take him because of this. You just want to continue to emphasize that, but it's not like I wouldn't be distraught if we passed on Jordan Davis if he was on the board, if it was for someone better.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Davis is going to be very good. The only thing that gives me pause is like I don't know that adding him to like Atlanta's defensive line is going to give them like the pop that they want right away when they need so much edge help.
And he'll definitely have a chance to redeem himself. Go Dogs.
Oh yeah. No, like I have no qualms about Jordan Davis. He's absolutely like a top 15 sort of player. I just think the edge is such a bigger need, and I've been really, I've gotten to watch some more Ojabo now. That I've come around more on Ojabo as like a fringe top 10 pick.
You have a comparison
for Ojabo at this point? I mean, not really. I've watched 2 games now. So
I'll wait on.
Yeah. I do have a comp for DeMarvin Leal, though. It's actually the same as Draft Networks, which is Chris Jones. So I'm a big fan of DeMarvin Leal, too. That one's pretty obvious,
Chris Jones with that one, too.
Yeah.
I see a little Frank Clark in Ojabo.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Hopefully he's better than Frank. He's not as crazy as Frank Clark. So I think
no, he's not. No,
yeah.
off the field, he doesn't pose those issues. But I see a Frank Clark. I see a guy that's, he's going to win with a lot of technical skills, but he has the athleticism to win in that aspect if he wants to.
Yeah.
And I'm like I said, I'm excited for him. I think this offseason he's going to test and he's going to climb, and he's probably going to be a top 15 pick.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so, for sure. Especially since we might see 3 other edge guys go in the top like 5 or 6. So, the 4th guy is going to go earlier probably because of that. So, all right, we got George Stanza with the $3. He says, "Watch it, Adnan. I saw you looking intensely at the camera. Going to have to flag you for taunting." So, that's 15 yards, Adnan. Go.
That's fair, but does the penalty take us back to the 15-yard line, or
I don't know. What down and distance is it?
That just
was I down?
Yeah, that play that's why I question every week. Why do we need referees? I think we can play this game without referees, to be honest with you. They're just in the way.
Everyone make their own calls. Oh God, that would be a disaster.
Might as well. That's what we're doing anyway, right?
When there's so many millions on the line, like shit gets heated at the park when people are calling their own plays when you're like hooping. But throwing a few $1 million on the line, I don't know.
That's what we're doing anyway. When referees get pressured into making a penalty because a player is yelling at them or the sideline is yelling at them, like you guys don't even know half the time. And look, my whole thing with this is I honestly feel like there should be more call, even though this is probably going to lead into the whole, delaying the game type thing. I think there are a lot more calls that need to be questioned and looked over in terms of replay because these guys, And this season right here is a prime example. The amount of calls that they get wrong.
Yeah.
I
And
think I think the solution there would be actually making officials like full-time employees.
make them. Fine referees.
Like the thing, what's baffling to me is these officials aren't even like full-timers. Like they have their own.
No,
The NFL has enough money, and the referees are a big enough like part of the game, and super important to like make this game work to the
yeah,
point where just get all of the refs, give them like their yearly salaries, and keep them train them year round.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make them full-time employees, but I honestly feel like they should find referees, especially in games where their call dictates the outcome of the game. When they take away a win from a team because of a overlook call or a rush to judgment on certain things. I've always felt that way. Why not? The players get fined, the
They
refs can't.
that's a bit of a slippery slope in my opinion.
How?
It's
How?
a slippery slope. Like, imagine if you were at your job and someone fined you whenever you didn't do a great job.
It
That's
is slippery
basically,
slope.
but that's
It's
basically
very
what happens.
subjective. That's the
That's
problem. It's
basically
very
what the
subjective.
player what happens to the players now. You can get fined for dancing in the end zone.
Yeah,
you
you
can get
can. It's
fined for wearing socks, wearing
Yeah.
the wrong socks.
All right.
But
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. No.
But that's also
Totally
like that's also what the NFLPA agreed to. Like they had their bargaining agreement with that. Like the NFLPA gets bent over backwards by the NFL owners, yes,
it's true.
but
Yeah.
they are at least like represent. Like the players agreed to let Goodell have this iron fist over them.
Yeah. All right. I need to read a donation here from a Bixis, aka Michael Zurich, real quick, just because he has to take off. So Michael Zurich, aka Bixis, with the $1. He says the Ryan no call was trash, but I'm hopeful overall. Double the wins of last year after losing Julio and Ridley unexpectedly. Defense has been better under Dean Pease. They officially know how to beat bad teams, and Pitts has been great. Anti-Pitts fans are confusing. Yeah, I don't get it. Like Pitts has now surpassed Julio's rookie season. Like you call him a receiver. I don't care. Call him whatever you want. Like he's had the best rookie season ever for any receiving weapon in Atlanta, and he really hasn't been targeted that much. Like his yards per catch are ridiculous. So, it's yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that look, getting to 7 wins, possibly 8 against the Saints, we're all hoping, obviously. I hope that they pull that off. The defense has been better, despite probably being worse in terms of talent. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree that. I think there's reason if you want to buy into this staff and regime and say and be hopeful about the future, I think there's like ample evidence for that. And if you're
how you can't.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that, think this is sort of the reason I'm like, I think you can absolutely criticize Arthur Smith's play calling at a lot of times, but I think if you just criticize the play calling, you're sort of looking at it in a vacuum, and it's not in a vacuum. Like he doesn't have the weapons that he wants. The run game is very inconsistent. I mean, it's been getting better lately, but most of the season, the run game was totally unreliable. The offensive line is like awful, like one of the worst in the league. And he's got a quarterback in Matt Ryan who can't escape that pressure. Like Ryan, that's the one thing that Ryan's good at navigating the pocket, but like he can't leak out if a sack misses and go pick up 20 yards on a scramble.
Yeah,
like that's just not Ryan's game.
Arthur Smith definitely deserves some criticism this season, especially when it came to like game management and things like that. But if for someone to sit here and look at everything that's going on and say that after just what we saw this year that you can't trust the staff or the front office going forward, like that's a bit outrageous to me, because to me that tells me you're not taking into account what this staff has to deal with.
Yeah,
you're not understanding the fact that this staff is dealing with D roster talent. Right. Like it's just
exactly.
I don't get it. I feel like allow this team to really implement their approach, their vision, get the guys in that they need to make this work. And then, if it's year 3, year 4, and we're still looking at no playoff appearances, then it's like, okay, all right, you know what the hell is going on, guys? Like this is ridiculous. But
yeah,
I agree. When you're trying to win games with Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus as your top 2 receivers, at times, then yeah, you got a problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's just really hard to make a good offense out of these pieces.
It really is.
Yeah,
It really
it is.
is. Jesus,
So
that
just
offensive line
really,
is
yeah,
fucking ass.
yeah. It's so bad. It's like literally holding
It's bad.
the entire team back. So,
It's putrid.
yeah,
putrid.
it's
Just
really bad.
Invest some funds into the offensive line.
Please, God, no. I think honestly that's the biggest thing I would
in
do.
free agency.
I would,
yes,
yeah. That's where I'm sitting there. So,
Mhm.
all right, moving on to the next one. We got Corey Carter with the $5. Thank you so much, Corey. Again, really appreciate everyone pitching in. Like I said, all of these donations this month are going towards the Senior Bowl, helping cover airfare travel. Dave and the staff are kicking in a lot as well, so don't feel super obligated. But every dollar helps, so that I don't have to pay out of pocket for stuff, and I just really appreciate that, guys. Thank you a lot. Because I want to give you the draft content. I'm going no matter what. We're gonna get you that hot, fresh draft content. But
must be nice.
Yeah, I know. Eric, it must be. Yeah, Eric's unfortunately, got other obligations like working at ESPN. He can't make it to the Senior Bowl. You knew it was coming. I was going to work it in at least once. I was waiting for the right moment, and that was the right moment. So, yeah. But yeah, we do have Corey Carter with the $5. Again, Corey, thank you.
Keeping me down in the basement 5 days a week.
I am. Yeah, that's what I only get you on here like once every other week now, so I really have to like make my jabs, very pointed because I don't get that many opportunities now. So he says, not worried about Ryan being marked down, not worried about the taunting. We just weren't good enough. And I still say that since that Carolina win, the worst is behind us. Let's let some young guys play next week and build on the season. I mean, I think if it makes sense for the young guys to be out there, then I would do it. But, I do want to beat the Saints too.
I do want to beat the
That's
Saints.
important to me. Yeah. So I think
because
you never tank against the Saints. You can't.
Because
it's not
depending
allowed.
on the outcome of today's game, they're down by touchdown to the Panthers right now, but they could be still playing for a playoff spot next week. So
Yeah.
the Falcons could play some spoiler ball, which is always fun.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Exactly. So I hope we can mess up their season. I mean, I hope they lose to the Panthers too, but I also just want to bury them even more. So, all right, let's go now to the next one. We've got. Hold on, trying to mark these because there's a lot coming in. Again, really appreciate that, guys. We got Corey Carter again with the $1. He says, "How smart was the last pass from Ryan in the first half? Threw it straight into the ground to save that 1 second instead of letting the clock expire." Yeah, that was that.
Veteran move.
Yeah, extreme veteran move. I guarantee you, he was like watching the play clock or just sort of had a timer in his head, and he was just like, "All right, there's nothing here. Just chucked it in the dirt. 1 second left, get the field goal." That is something that Matt Ryan gives you that very few rookies are going to give you. All but the best, or like young quarterbacks. So like Josh Allen, I don't know if he makes that play, and Josh Allen's developing into a very good quarterback, but I think with most starters, you would not run that play because you don't trust them to get the ball down in time. It's not worth missing on the 3 points for that one extra shot. But I think you can trust Ryan in that scenario, and he did a great job. That is something. The cerebral part of the game, I think, is still his strongest aspect right now, and that's why I think. And we'll talk about this, throughout the offseason and going forward. But that's why I think if the decision does come down to trade Ryan, I'm not saying that it will, but if it does come down, I think a team may want Ryan because if you get him with a good offensive line, a good run game, a good defense, like he's still capable of taking you to the playoffs. He's not going to be the reason you don't make the playoffs. Like he's going to get you there, and he can take you over the top. So that cerebral part of the game, that's what makes the difference when those other pieces are in place. And I think that does increase his value a lot because there's a lot of teams that just can't even get that. Like that, if you don't have that aspect of the game, you can't be an NFL quarterback. You just can't. That's like most of why Tom Brady is still a very good quarterback is because the mental part of the game, he's unmatched. So Tom Brady's not scrambling for 40 yards on a broken play. He might scramble for like 10, but it's the mind, and the mind's really important. So, all right. George Costanza with the $3. He does clarify, George still matching 100% of all donations for the Senior Bowl trip. Please donate to help Kevin's meal plans on the trip. He wants Ruth's Chris, not McDonald's. That's your words, George, but I mean, yes, I would definitely accept that. I forget where all the guys go out in Mobile, but wherever that is. That's where I want to go.
It's a couple of bars.
Yeah. Hopefully bars are open by the time I get there. I guess it is Alabama, so the chances are probably pretty good. But let's see. He also says, "What do we do with Ridley? Seems like he has zero trade value now. Can they get out of his contract?" The answer is no, they can't get out of his contract. Honestly, like it seemed like from what we read, and our legal correspondent Matt Chambers doesn't think that they can do much about his contract, but I'm not entirely sure. I think the wording is like vague enough that I want to see what happens with it, where I think there's a chance the Falcons could argue that they want his contract to toll, and they would say that he's not eligible for the 5th-year option yet because he didn't play his 4th year. He only played in 5 games, so he did not accrue a year of eligibility towards free agency. I don't know if they would win something like that, but it's meaningful, I think, that they put him on the PUP, or on the NIL, or non-football injury, NFI, right before he would have been eligible for the 6th game, like right before he would have been on IR or whatever for a 6th game, because that's the cutoff for when the contract tolls. So if they somehow were to get this contract to toll, they'd have him under contract at like $1.5 million again this year.
But but because he wasn't on the non-football list for that game against the Panthers, like he was still technically available against the Panthers. Doesn't that take away any chance for it to toll?
I don't know. I just don't know enough about it. I feel like this is sort of an unprecedented situation. But I feel like there's a reason they put him on NFI and not IR. And I don't think it's because he wasn't eligible for IR. I don't think that's the case. So,
yeah, I mean, for the record, I want the team to do everything they can to try to toll that contract.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if this honestly is an unprecedented sort of situation. So we just don't know. But worst case scenario, they have to pay him his 5th-year option, which isn't that bad. I think it's like $12 million. Which for Ridley, if he's like playing and healthy, that's fair for Ridley. Like that's a fair contract. But it would obviously be even cheaper if they could get him down for $1 million. But I still think Ridley's trade value is fine, assuming he's like bought back into football and teams sort of trust that. But I don't think it's as high as it would have been if he played this year and was good. Like it's probably still day 2 trade value, but it's probably not a 1st-round pick anymore. So we'll see.
I'd take a day 2 pick for him.
Yeah. All right.
You guys think the team would actually be shopping him at this point?
I doubt it, just because again, I think his value is very depressed. But it's possible. I mean, I didn't think they'd be shopping Julio either. So. All right. Yeah.
I will say I do have to get out of here though. I will talk to you guys maybe on Wednesday's show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming in, Adnan. Appreciate your time. All right, that was Adnan Ikic, guys. Thanks to him for coming on. Eric, you still got a few more minutes to get through the rest of these donations?
Sure.
Cool. Let me get this out. I think, yeah, the tip bot seems to be broken. I don't know why, because the other bot functions are still working. But check the show description on YouTube. If you look in there, there's a link to it. It's streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic, I believe. Yeah, streamlabs.com/thefalcoholic, and it's in the show description as well if you just want to click it. But thank you for your interest there. Do appreciate all that, guys. I can just post that link in here, actually. But let me read the next tip real quick, and then I'll let Eric get the first crack at it, and then I'll post a link so we can keep things moving. We got Ulysses with the $5. Thank you so much, man. He says, all right, win or loss next week. I know it's the Saints, and let's sweep that ass. But then that draft pick, who knows where it lands? And that was a total BS taunting penalty on Ryan. So what do you think, Eric? You going for the win, or are you tanking against the Saints?
It's the Saints. I'm going for the win.
You know the answer. Yeah. No, we got to get that W. I mean, you can't tank against the Saints. It's not allowed. You can tank sometimes, but like that's the one game.
I don't like tanking anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Except like last year, because after week 2, it was time. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that was draft season, not necessarily tank season.
Yeah, it's time to start looking at film at that point. Absolutely.
But yeah, they got to win. They got to beat the Saints. That's fine. That's allowed. I will absolutely allow.
I wonder. I'm curious to know what is the worst or the lowest or the highest draft pick that they can fall to at this point, because I think
I believe it's 6, based on my math.
They can go as high as 6, and as low as what? Like
Let
13,
me
14
check.
maybe?
I'll pull it
I
up
think
right now because this is relevant. Yeah.
I think
So
they're still looking at 10. Are they
yeah.
still at 10?
I
10
guess Washington
something?
blew it
Yeah.
against Philly, so we
Yep.
would have been eliminated from the playoffs either way, guys. So yeah, because Philly won.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess technically if San Francisco were to lose, but they're playing Houston, so I just kind of doubt it.
Are they still sitting at 10th overall right now?
Yeah, they're still 10th overall. Chicago did win, so technically, yeah, actually it's 8 now. The highest the Falcons could get, I think, is 8, maybe. Well, Seattle. Has Seattle played yet?
Seattle's playing now. They're playing
Okay.
Detroit now.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Carolina and Seattle are currently playing. So, yeah, so if the Falcons lose out, I think they could still get as high as 6, technically. If Carolina and Seattle were to both win out, and Chicago was to win again next week, and Washington was to win next week, then they could move up as high as 6, but they'd have to lose to the Saints to make that happen. But yeah, I think they could technically get down to like, I think the lowest they could get is 14.
Okay.
But it's very unlikely, like extremely unlikely, I think. So because they're gonna have the lowest strength of schedule, basically anyone, so they'll pretty much break ties to get the lower pick. But yeah, so between 6 and 14, right around that. I still think 8 to 12 is really the magic number for them. If they win, they'll probably be closer to 12. If they lose, they'll probably be closer to 8, but we'll see. All right. We got Corey Carter with the $10. Thank you so much, Corey. He says, RIP Coach Reeves. Absolutely, rest in peace. Great Falcons coach. He says, you were great. Unceremoniously let go by an inexperienced owner. All class. Thank you for helping to make the Falcons relevant. This donation to Kevin's Senior Bowl trip is in the name of Coach Reeves. Prayers up for Reeves and his family. Great dude. I know Morton Anderson told me a great story about him, so maybe we can get Morton on to recount one of his Dan Reeves stories.
or Keenan.
Oh, yeah, I bet Keenan has one, too. We should definitely do a Dan Reeves tribute show this offseason.
Absolutely.
All right. We've got George Costanza with the $23, I assume matching some of the donations from earlier. Thank you so much for that, George. We really appreciate you, man. Says, wanted to see what Kyle Hamilton would do against Oklahoma State. Instead, opted out of the game. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't play if I was Kyle Hamilton. Guess quitting on the team is just part of the game now. It is if you're a top 10 pick. It is if you're a top 10 pick.
Quitting on the team. Why are we calling it that?
Yeah, I mean, I just, there's no reason for Kyle Hamilton to play in this bowl game. If it was a college playoff game, that's a different story.
Maybe.
But
there's no reason
he's a top 10 pick. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. So, yeah, I just don't agree with him. I would disagree with him. Like, I didn't think Matt Corral should have played either, and look what happened to him.
Yeah, I don't think Corral should have played.
Now, hopefully he's okay. It sounds like his x-rays were negative, but
Thibodeau didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
Thibodeau opted out. Hutchinson played, of course, because they're in the CFP. But I mean, we get this. This is a whole different discussion, Kev.
Yeah, it's a whole different discussion. Yeah. I don't have any problem with guys wanting to play. Like, if guys want to play, have a great time, not going to question anything. That's totally up to you. It's just a risk, and I don't blame guys for not wanting to take the risk.
But if guys are saying, "Hey, man, I got an opportunity to make a ton of millions of dollars right now. Yeah. If I don't get hurt, and if I have an opportunity to show myself this offseason, I can understand it. Even as a teammate, I'll understand it. Like,
yeah. But he also says, you see Jordan Davis against Michigan, unblockable. Yeah. Davis did have a great game. Great game against Michigan. He'll have another opportunity against Alabama. So, George is all the way on the Jordan Davis train. So, he was right about Kyle Pitts, so we have to, respect that. All right, we got Brandon Brass with the $5. He say, if we stay at 10 in the first round, what would be your pick that you think is like of the players that would still be available at that time? I mean, low key, I am hoping Kyle Hamilton falls right now. Like, that's my top hope. But I don't think he's gonna fall to 10. He might fall to like 8.
I don't think he gets past 6.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of dumb teams that are like, oh, he's a safety. Can't draft him. So yeah, Kyle Hamilton would be like who I'm hoping for, because that dude is. If Kyle Pitts is a unicorn on offense, Kyle Hamilton is a unicorn on defense, and you just take those guys. You put them on your defense. You say, I don't care. This is the best, maybe the most talented player in the draft class. I don't care what he plays. I want him, and when you're not a good football team, just getting great players is the best way to get better. So that would be my first choice. But I do think like Evan Neal has a legitimate chance of being there if they're around 10. Ikem Ekwonu, who I think is from NC State. He's really risen up draft boards a lot. I haven't watched him much, but another guy they could consider at tackle. And then if I would just be totally on board with like Andrew Booth too. But what are you leaning? Are you like a Jabo or?
Right now, my number one, if they were sitting at 10, my number one guy that I'm keeping my fingers crossed on would be DeMarvin Leal. He's not the edge rusher that will answer that particular question, but he fits. He provides another 5 tech on that line opposite of Grady Jarrett that can take over a game. You know, this guy's super athletic. He's got, I think he's 6'4", right around 265, 270, maybe pushing 280.
Heavier. He's crazy.
He's probably like 270, 275, pushing 280. But you know, of course, getting him in the off season, you know, training, he can be close to 300 pounds. And yes, he has that Chris Jones type ability.
That's who he reminds me of. He can play edge for you on base downs. And then he can kick inside. You know, and he's an ox. Like he does not get blown off the ball against the run. He can play the run inside. He can play the run outside. And he's a better pass rusher as a defensive end than like any other run stuffing end will be. Like he's a legitimately good edge rusher. He's not a great edge rusher, but he's good. Like he's gonna provide pass rush. Unlike a lot of these guys like a Red Bryant or whatever, these more traditional big 5 techs that you would have, you know, be your run defenders. Like he's gonna give you plus pass rushing as an edge, but when he kicks inside, he's gonna be dynamic as well, and be just this elite inside. And you can move him around. I think Dean Pease loves that shit.
Well, you can move him everywhere. He can play all across the D-line. It doesn't matter. Hell, if you wanted to get a little funky on third downs and kick him inside to the 0 tech,
do it. Why not?
And come with that exotic blitz, come with it. You can do that. He's my number one target right now. If not him, I definitely wouldn't mind Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I like Sauce too. He had a great game in the CFP, despite
a really good game. And if you, to me, I can't be against any type of elite defensive talent. I really don't care, honestly. They just need guys on that side of the ball. Now, I will sort of question taking Jordan Davis at 10. But outside of him, there's really no defensive talent that I would turn my nose up for when it comes to just adding playmakers on this defense. So if it is Kyle Hamilton, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they don't need a safety. They need playmakers. They need elite talent. I can't. So yeah, Leo is my number one. I would say Sauce Gardner is probably my number 2. Number 3 would probably be a Jabo.
I think that's fair. Those are a lot of good names. So those are all guys I would put out there for this, and I think they would all be great players. George, I'll get the numbers for you here in a second. Let me move on to the next dono, just so that I can keep things moving because Eric's already volunteered a lot of his time, and you guys have been very generous with the donations, so I want to make sure we get to all of them. So we got Ulysses with the $5. He says, "How many years do you think Dean Pease stays in Atlanta? I like that teams might try to poach our defensive coordinator for a change, but I doubt he'll bite on hiring offers." Consistency matters. I agree with you, Ulysses. I don't think Dean Pease really wants to be a head coach again. Now, obviously, if he gets some crazy offer, like I wouldn't begrudge him taking it, but I think he's likely to stick around in Atlanta until he wants to retire, as long as Arthur Smith's still here.
Dean Pease is 72 years old.
Yeah. So maybe like 3 years, 4 years. I don't know.
I don't know a whole lot of teams that are trying to hire a 72-year-old head coach.
No, and he's done it. You know, I don't think it was his favorite. I think he preferred being a defensive coordinator. And that in some ways gives the Falcons more consistency and more longevity there because he's not going to be trying to bolt for a head coaching job. And it gives Arthur Smith like a veteran guy to lean on too.
Yeah, I think he's here until he wants to leave.
Yeah, I agree.
Basically.
All right. So, next one. Tom K with the $3 says, thanks for answering my earlier question. Hope you have a great time at the Senior Bowl. Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate that as well. Then we had Falcon77 with the $5. Falcon77, I don't see your question. So if you did have a question and it just didn't come through, throw it in the chat and I'll read it off. I just don't see it, but that's a $5 from Falcon77. Maybe a question attached to it. Thank you so much for that. And then we got Ulysses with the $50. Let's go, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. He says, in honor of Coach Reeves, let's go to that Senior Bowl. Feeling really good going into the offseason compared to the past 2 years. Great things are to come. Rise up. Yeah, I do feel good going into this offseason, and we'll take a few minutes here just while I do the math for George to sort of talk about, obviously the playoffs are gone. The Falcons lost. RIP to those hopes and dreams, however slim they may have been. So we are transitioning into, offseason talk. And the big topic of the last week was, there were some rumors that teams like Pittsburgh and Cleveland might be interested in trading for Matt Ryan. Eric, do you have an opinion on that, or do you think it's an on the Matt Ryan trade being like a possibility? Not necessarily do you want it or not. Do you think it's a possibility? And, what is sort of the compensation you'd be looking for to make it a possibility? Because I think that's the big thing, right? Like, I don't think the Falcons really want to trade Ryan. They certainly don't save much money doing it. But if the compensation was good enough, I think they would consider it. But.
Right. It has to be, it has to be for the right price. And a lot of people are saying that they should think about getting rid of him. But of course, with his contract, that's difficult. You can't just say, let's trade him so we can get younger at the position, because trading him is going to cause a lot of dead cap money. And around the league, teams are willing to pay plenty of dead cap money, but only if it's worth the cause. If they're getting, hypothetically, I'm not saying this is going to be the case, but if they, for example, like the Eagles had to eat up about 30 plus million last year for Carson Wentz, or this year for Carson Wentz. But I mean, look what they got in return for him. If this is a situation where the Falcons can get hypothetically a couple first rounders or something like that, then I think you may have Terry Fontenot's attention at that point. But if you're talking about you're trying to trade for him and you want to just offer a fourth, then you can go to hell. We're good. So it sounds easy, but getting rid of Matt is not, to me, is going to have to take the right price from the right team in order to do so. And honestly, I don't know if he would even have a lot of suitors this offseason. There's already going to be possibly some headline quarterbacks on the free agent market this offseason, Russell Wilson and possibly Aaron Rodgers. So if you're a team that's a quarterback away, why trade assets when you can have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who just needs a contract? So this isn't the right offseason for Matt Ryan to be on the trade block, in my opinion, or for the Falcons to, call around for a trade, because again, there's some decent, well, I say decent by putting it lightly, there's some really good quarterback play on the market this offseason that teams like a Cleveland or like a Denver or like a Pittsburgh that are, hey, if they can just upgrade the quarterback position, they can be right there in it. There's no need for them to trade draft picks when they can just give Aaron Rodgers a 3-year deal. Because if you're bringing on Matt Ryan, you're going to have to pay his contract as well. So, I mean, it's just, again, it's probably better for you to take a swing at a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson than to lose draft assets for a guy like Matt Ryan that's older, and it's going to cost pretty much just as much, if not more, than those two guys. So, I think right now it's probably best to think that Matt Ryan is probably going to be a Falcon in 2022.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that's the heavy favorite, regardless. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to have to beat Wentz's trade. It's going to have to beat a third and a first, I think, because
it's going to have to. Yeah.
Wentz was young, but he was also extremely hurt all the time and bad. So Ryan is neither of those things, but he's older. So I still think Ryan's worth more than Wentz in a vacuum. And I think teams will have to sort of convince. The Falcons are going to play hardball. They're going to say, look, if you want to do this, you got to do it pre-June 1st because otherwise they have to pay his roster bonus and it makes it very dicey. But it's like, okay, you got to do it, before free agency starts or whatever. And, you got to beat the Wentz trade. But I think the Falcons would probably prefer to have that extra first in 2023 when they're probably going to try to go all in for this rookie quarterback if they do decide to trade Ryan.
I wouldn't say it's out of the picture that the team sits in the first round this year this year's draft. They trade down, they get an extra second, maybe an extra third. I don't think it's out of the picture that they will take a swing at a young quarterback then.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think if they're picking, late in the first round after a trade down, or like early in the second round, their second rounder or whatever, after they've also traded down or whatever, and they still have like, if Corral happens to fall, or if I like Desmond Ridder, so I would be down. Like, guys, like I know like Desmond Ridder didn't have a great game against Alabama, but his O-line got trucked. So, like, they had no chance against Will Anderson. Will Anderson just dominated that game. So, like, I don't really think it's Desmond Ridder's fault. He made some insane throws in that game that were dropped.
Not to mention, he's everyone's favorite type of quarterback, right? He likes to pull the ball down and run. That's what we need in order to win the league, right?
Well, you know what Draft Network comped him to? Ryan Tannehill. So, Arthur Smith, Ryan Tannehill, it's all lining up.
He's bigger than Tannehill, isn't he?
He is. He's like 6'4", 220. Like, he's big dude. He's fast.
He's not an ex-wide receiver.
No, he's not an ex-wide receiver. But, like, if they want freak athlete, they could still take Malik Willis in the second round. So
I don't like that comment.
Yeah, I do like Desmond Ridder a lot, though.
I like Ridder.
I also like Malik Willis if it's in the second round. But Malik Willis is like the biggest wild card. Like, he could be this transcendent player, or he could be a bad NFL quarterback. It could be either one, but I think if it's in the second round, and especially if it's like an extra pick you've picked up now, I think the gamble, maybe the gamble be worth it, but he's not someone you're going to start next year, like, period. Yeah. So, but I like Malik Willis a lot. I think he's a real gamer. I think he's a guy that's going to play, but I just don't know. He's not someone you're going to play immediately. So if they do trade Ryan, I think they would probably bring in like a stopgap if they were going to go with one of those second round guys. But there are options out there like Trubisky. Trubisky was making $2.5 million as like a 1 year sort of stopgap where you're maybe low key tanking. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, if you pick up an extra first next year and you start Mitchell Trubisky and go like 4-13 again or something, then you'd have an extra first and probably be picking in the top 5. So you could probably get whatever quarterback you want. But I, for one, would rather not tank. But it's if you don't think the possibility is there that this team gets a great offer for Ryan, because Cleveland's like, we got to win right now. We have everything else in place. We just need a quarterback. Matt Ryan's still got 3-4 years left. Let's just make this trade, get a cheap contract for a couple years, and try to get it done.
The contract is not cheap.
It's cheap for the team that trades for him. I mean, like, cheap in terms of quarterback. Like, it's less than $30 million per year. Like, every year. I think the first year is like 20, and then the second year is like 23. So it's not like it's an outrageously expensive contract for a quarterback. It's not like draft pick cheap or anything like that. But most of the contract right now is all these prorated bonuses because they've rated it for cap space so many times. So I think like $40 million of it is like freaking bonuses. So the Falcons still have to eat all that. So it's definitely not going to help their prospects in 2022 if they were to trade Ryan. But I think it's entirely possible that they see this roster as like, this is at least 1 more year project. Let's sort of get the resources, because we're in a unique situation, and this will be the last thing we say about it because we'll save some of the conversation for next time. But Matt Ryan could legitimately be the best quarterback available if some things fall the way that they look like they might. He might be the only guy actually out there for these teams like Cleveland and Denver and Pittsburgh. And if that's the case, the price is high, and you might never get a better chance if you're trying to go that route. Not that I'm saying they should or that they will, but if they wanted to do it, if they decided that was what they wanted to do, there's probably not going to be a better opportunity in terms of the value you could recoup in that sort of trade. And they're not trading for Baker Mayfield. Don't even throw that at me. They can't afford him. They can't. Absolutely not. Baker Mayfield's getting $18 million on that 5th-year option. Not an option at all. So
I don't get it. Y'all, they criticized Matt Ryan enough. You want to bring on another quarterback that's being criticized by his fan base?
I don't think anyone like wants to bring Baker Mayfield on, but I think it's like, oh, if you trade with Cleveland, which to be honest, I think that's where the trade would happen, if it is anything. But
I like Baker, but I don't know, man.
The Falcons aren't taking Baker though. Someone else would have to take Baker. So all right, we got George Costanza with the $63, the matching for the other tips. Thank you so much, George. Really appreciate that. He says, think this matches everything. Thank everyone for the donations. Coach Reeves will be missed. Jordan Davis doesn't make the stats for himself. He makes them for everyone else. If you don't see him or Evan Neal, or if you don't see that him and Evan Neal are the best players in this draft, I don't know what to say. I do really like Evan Neal. I do think Kyle Hamilton's the best, like the most talented, but there's, I think,
the best players in the draft.
I don't know. I don't think that Jordan Davis is the best.
Who the hell?
Evan Neal maybe has a case to be the best offensive player in the draft. Maybe. Because there's not great receivers or tight ends. I mean, Jameson Williams had a great season, but Jackson Smith and Jigba is probably the best offensive player in college football right now, but he's not coming out. So
all right, I think that's a sign at the show.
Eric's signing off.
So close. Are we there? We're there already. We haven't even had Senior Bowl practice or anything, and we're already calling Evan Neal and Jordan Davis the two best players in the draft.
Look, George Costanza is a man of conviction.
This is going to be a long draft process.
George Costanza is a man of conviction, Eric. He will never back down once he's made a take. So you got to respect him for it. He doesn't change his tune. He's gonna ride or die. Yeah,
they're the two best at their positions. Yes, Evan Neal is the best offensive tackle in the draft, and Jordan Davis is the best nose tackle in the draft.
Yeah,
two best players. Period. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's tough for me to agree to, but yeah, I think if we revise it and say the best at their positions, I think that's easily fair. Especially if you consider Leal to be like sort of more of just a defensive lineman as opposed to just a defensive tackle, which is I do. So, but yeah, thank you so much for that, George. Love the back and forth. Love the strong takes. Like don't have wishy-washy takes. Just like, plant your flag and stick with it. I respect that. All right. Before we sign off, guys, I want to remind you, please like and subscribe. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier. It annoys me to no end, but new setup should be getting sorted out. Everything has worked better now. I will be back at home next week, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. But do appreciate my mom for putting me up and letting me take over her study with all of my equipment, because it's actually a lot of equipment now. Also, thanks to you guys, your donations, Patreon contributions over the years have allowed us all to get better equipment, microphones, lights, cameras, action, all that stuff. So we really appreciate it. If you're interested in contributing to that and you're not already a part of it, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. The Patron Fantasy League Championship is today. It's funny enough, it's between Evan and I. So, there was no patron could, challenge us. But we are allowing the third place person now to win the prize, which is to come on the show for a segment. So I believe it's between Dirty Bird Brian and TC Falcon. So good luck to you guys, and we'll see who gets to come on. And that fantasy league has been a lot of fun, and we're probably gonna have to do more next time because we have like 25 patrons now. So it's definitely not all fitting in one league, but really appreciate everyone. Like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon. And thanks to everyone for contributing to the Senior Bowl. I don't know, if you guys keep this up, I might have to increase the donation goal. I thought 500 was like, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna be like something we won't get to, but I'm not saying stop. You guys keep going. But yeah, every dollar really does help. And if I didn't have to pay out of pocket, that would really make me happy. So you guys are like very much on the way to making that a reality for me. So I really appreciate it. But we will be back on Wednesday for the next Falcoholic Live. Before we take off, let me thank my co-host Eric Robinson. He is at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, anything you're working on you'd like to plug?
Oh man, I really don't. Just tune in to NFL Live, 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on ESPN.
On ESPN, yes, where you work. Eric does work at ESPN. We're very proud of him. We're very proud of him.
I work in the basement.
Yeah, well, you got to start at the basement and you work your way to the tippy top. Pretty soon you'll be in that boardroom.
They don't even feed me.
They don't even feed you. Well, that's rude. Well, I didn't know that, but. Guys, thanks again. I'm Kevin. I have Falcoholic Kevin. I think I will try to do a mock draft this week if I have time. I have to travel back home But if I have time, I'll try to do another mock draft. But the last one of the regular season before we transition into full-time draft takes, where I have a list of 40 players I'm going to try to watch before the Senior Bowl. Probably will not get to all 40, but I'm going to try to get to like most of them. So I will at least have working knowledge of like 40 of the top guys I want to watch at the Senior Bowl. So Tom K says, aren't all of you guys working out of Dave Choate's basement? I was. He let me leave to go visit family for Christmas. But
I just transitioned from Dave's basement to ESPN's basement.
Yeah. Just really basement to basement. You were very comfortable in a basement atmosphere, so that helps.
I mean, they gave me a fan.
Hey, that's an improvement. Dave never gave us a fan.
Yeah, Dave never gives us a fan. He just opens
just really
the door for like 10 minutes and then closes it.
Yeah. It's rough. It's rough out there. Yeah. But thank you guys for watching. Like I said, we'll see you on Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time for the next iteration of the Falcoholic Live. Enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. Good luck to everyone in their fantasy championships. Go get that money or Splendor or whatever it is that you play for. Go for it. Until next time, guys, have a great